Hey guys, it's Lauren. If you haven't watched my channel before, I'm a mum of a little boy who has CMPA, and I've been spending some time lately making some videos just about our experiences and hopefully some tips and advice that might help if you're on the same sort of track, and at least making you feel like you're not alone if you are going through something similar to what we've gone through. So today I want to talk about eating out with food allergies. Because I know how overwhelming this can be, and to be honest, it was one of the things I sort of struggled with the most when I gave up dairy. I mean, I was okay at home, became confident with reading labels and cooking up our own foods, but I really struggled eating out and putting sort of my trust into someone else and trusting they were telling me the truth, they were telling me the correct information, you know, and kind of risking eating something I hadn't prepared and possibly making my little boy poorly. So I'm just going to run through a few sort of tips. I've got some stuff written down so I don't forget. Just a few tips and a little bit of advice that I've sort of found helps when you're eating out with a food allergy. So the first thing you need to know when you start eating out with dairy allergy or any kind of food allergies is that since December 2014, the regulations actually changed, and now anywhere that serves food has a legal obligation to provide you with information on the top 14 allergens. So that means anywhere that serves food, so that's restaurants, cafes, burger vans, bakeries, caterers, anywhere that's serving food has to be able to give you that information. It doesn't have to be written down, although lots of places will have like files or folders you can have a look through. They can tell you verbally, but they have to be able to tell you if any of the top 14 allergens are in any of their foods. So that means, for example, if you go to a burger van and you say what allergens are in your burger buns, they have to be able to tell you which of the top 14 allergens are in those burger buns. If they can't do that, you need to be reporting them to EHO, to Environmental Health, because it is a legal obligation and it's pretty serious if they aren't able to do that. So like I said, it doesn't have to be written down, it can just be verbal, or sometimes they'll even show you the packaging. You can ask to see the packaging, which I quite like to do because I like that reassurance. I've actually seen the packet myself and seen which allergens are in there. And they don't have to be able to tell you all the ingredients, although a lot of places will be able to, but legally it's just the top 14 allergens that they have to be able to tell you about. One of the best things I've found to do to make it a little bit easier for you and to make sure you're getting the right information is, say you go to a bakery and there's some pastries that you want to know if they've got milk in. I would never say, is that dairy free? Because sometimes I think people just say yes because they want your money, or they're not sure and they don't know how to find out and they don't want to bother finding out. Sometimes they'll say yes because they'll forget that butter is still dairy, or you know, some other stupid thing like that. Sometimes they'll say no because there's egg in it, and it seems like 50% of the population think that egg is dairy. So the best thing to do to get sure you're getting the correct information is to say, what's in that, please? And that way they have to find out. It's an open question. They have to go find you the answer, and then you can determine whether that contains anything that you need to avoid or not. So that's kind of my best tip for eating out, especially in smaller places, is just to say what's in that instead of is it dairy free. So when you're sort of first starting out and you want to go out to eat, I would say probably for the first 6 months I stuck to bigger chains and places that I knew were going to be capable of coping with allergies and had systems in place. So most of the time bigger chains are much better at coping with it because they've got head officers who have had a department, you know, specifically designed to deal with this kind of thing, to produce allergen information, and they're very conscious of the laws and getting it right. So places like Nando's, Wagamama's, Pizza Express, any big chain really tends to be the better ones for eating out. Sometimes you'll find it's the smaller places who aren't so sure about the rules and what they have to be able to tell you, or you know, they're not quite as hot on it as the bigger chains are. So if you are a bit worried, and it's totally normal to be, because I know I was for a really long time, I would try and stick to the bigger chains until you sort of get used to asking the questions, asking for the allergen information, you know, and getting used to the whole process. So the next thing I think is really important when you're eating out, and probably even people who've been doing it a while are a bit guilty of this, is assuming that things are dairy free and assuming things haven't changed. So like I said, Nando's, places like that are great for food allergies, but I ask for the allergen information every single time I go. And that is because things might have changed. I want to be sure that right now, today, these things are still dairy free, and I can't guarantee that, even though we've had them 5 times before. You know, plenty of places change their suppliers, change their recipes all the time. So you need to check every single time you're eating, and you need to check. You can't just assume. I know I talk about it all the time, but I've seen milk in the weirdest places. You go to Subway, there's milk in their ham, okay? You go to some restaurants, their vegetables will be dairy free. Some restaurants will have vegetables covered in butter. You know, some restaurants will use a dairy free gravy. Some restaurants will have dairy in their gravy. You cannot look at a menu and guess what has milk in it and what doesn't. Sometimes chips have milk in, okay? It's crazy. You cannot assume. You have to be asking the questions, because you don't want to risk it and end up eating something or giving your little one something that has an allergen in it that they react to and make them poorly. It's just not worth it. So always check. Always check. Never assume. And even if you've had it before, just double check. So following on from that, even once I have checked, I always make sure I mention the allergy while I'm ordering. So even though I'll have checked myself and I'll have picked something, you know, that is dairy and soya free for Dylan, I will always mention it to the waitress or waiter when I'm ordering. I will say, can you just make a note? I've checked this is dairy and soya free, but please can you make a note on there so they don't put any surprises on there, because there's nothing worse than ordering a sandwich that says it's dairy free and then it comes with butter on it because the chefs, you know, decided it needed butter, or a jacket potato, it comes with butter, you know. They shouldn't be changing things, they shouldn't be adding things, but it does happen. So just make sure that you've actually told them, the message gets to the chef and you haven't got to worry about it. Often, a lot of places like Nando's and Wagamama's, once you mention an allergy, they'll make sure they cleaned the pans and they've cleaned everything down before they started cooking yours to make sure it's safe. So it's definitely worth mentioning and just making them aware that your food needs to be free of those certain allergens. The thing you can do once you do mention it is actually ask if they're able to change anything. So if you go to Wagamama's, or if you're in my Facebook group, which I'll put a link to down there, you'll know I talk about Wagamama's all the time because I'm a really big fan of how they handle their allergies. So it used to be 2 folders, but now I think they've combined it to 1. But it actually shows, so it'll say a dish might contain dairy or might contain soya or whatever, but it will actually show what changes they can make to that dish to then make it suitable. So if you look online at Wagamama's for dairy and soya free food, there aren't many options that come up. But if you go in and have a look at their modification folder, you'll see that lots of the dishes, like the katsu chicken curry, contains soya, but once you check the folder, you'll see that if you have it without the side salad and the pickles, it becomes soya free. So it's great they have that. I think more places should have that. Places like McDonald's, their allergen information is broken down into ingredients. So that way you can actually see that if you have a Big Mac without cheese, it's dairy free. If you need egg free, you have the Big Mac without cheese and mayo and Big Mac sauce, and it's egg free. So it's nice to be able to see what you can do. If places don't have that kind of breakdown, it's still worth asking. If a sandwich shows as containing dairy, it might be because they put butter on it, okay? So there's no harm in saying to them, can you just double check, like, are you able to make that dairy free? Can you have that without butter? Are the rest of the ingredients dairy free? And that kind of thing. And you might find it opens up loads more doors. Sometimes if you go to a carvery, the vegetables will show as containing dairy, but actually they'll be able to go make you some fresh ones and you'll be safe to eat them. So always worth asking, can you make it dairy free? Is there anything you can do for me? There's no point just ending up with like chicken breast and chips. You know, there are loads of things you can have, and most places are pretty accommodating to finding something that will be tasty. So my final tip, and the one I want to hammer home the most, and the most important one really, is if you're in doubt, if you don't trust what they're saying, if you have hesitations, if you think they're wrong, if you don't trust the allergen information, don't eat there. There's nothing worse than eating something when you had that sort of feeling in your gut and you knew it wasn't quite right, and then you get home and your little one's poorly and you know you shouldn't have eaten there. There's honestly nothing worse than that. So if their allergen information is wrong and they can't help you trust them better, I wouldn't eat there. Okay, I've been to plenty of places and I'll have like a little check through their allergen information just to see how reliable it is. I won't mention where it was, but I went somewhere and checked their, it was like a Caesar salad. It was like a prawn Caesar salad. So it obviously had cheese on it, it had a cream dressing on it, and it showed as dairy free. Now, it's not dairy free, and immediately I was not very satisfied that I could rely on any of their information. And we have had another incident before where Dilan was given a meal that said it was dairy free on the allergen information, but turned out it wasn't. So I am very aware that does happen, which is why I'm normally asking them to bring out the packaging from the kitchen to prove it to me. So if you don't trust them, and if they can't, you know, make you believe them, they can't make you feel better, go eat somewhere else. It's not worth it. And that's really my top tip. So hopefully, I don't know if I'm talking really fast or not, but hopefully some of this has been really helpful, and you might feel a bit more confident about eating out. And definitely know that you're not alone in having anxiety about it, because I'm a pretty relaxed person, but for me, eating out was a really big deal once we started eliminating allergens from our diet. Because like I said, it's that thing of putting your trust into someone else, and it's going to impact your little one. So you know, it's really important they get it right. So there's no harm in being quite firm when you're eating out that, look, this will make my little one really poorly, or if the whole breastfeeding thing is a bit too complicated for you to explain, just say it will make me really poorly. You know, whatever you need to say, let them know that it's a serious allergy and you need to be satisfied that this food is safe, and most places will take it seriously and will really help you. And if they don't eat there, don't give them your money, you know. Complain if it's a chain, and you can, because that's how places get better. Like I said earlier, if places can't provide you with allergen information, you need to report them to EHO. And if they do provide you with information but they give you the wrong information, you can report them to trading standards because they've missold a product. And that's the same for anything you buy in a shop. If the labels are wrong, you need to be reporting them to trading standards, and we need to report them, we need to complain, because that's how things get better. So yeah, that was a little bit of a rant. I think I got really fast talking there for a little while because it's something I could talk about for ages. But hopefully this has given you sort of a bit of help. Check out my previous vlogs, because I've been talking lots about our dairy-free journey and our symptoms and diagnosis. I've been talking about lots of FAQs, and there's loads more on my blog, so I'll put a link down there as well. And I'll also put a link to my dairy-free treats list, because at the bottom of that is a list of some of the places I recommend for eating out, and also a list of things that are safe from those restaurants. But again, always double check, because things change all the time, and occasionally things change like area to area, so just make sure you're double checking. But bottom line is, you definitely can eat out. It's definitely doable, and you will be fine. Just find someone you trust and make sure you're checking the allergen information. Anyway, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my other videos. Hope you've enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you again soon. Bye!